A little past 2 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a regular Commissioners Court meeting, County of Starr, 2 p.m., November 13th. Let the record show that we do have quorum, everyone being present. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for being here. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any minutes, do we, Dennis?
That's like, I'm running late.
Okay.
Adrian almost has them ready. Do you want to?
Well, we'll skip over, okay. Approval of claims, Mr. Carter, are they in order?
All the claims are in order, Judge.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved and second to approve, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we do our reports, we do have some people from out of town, and there are UTRGV people. Dr. Ronan, if you please want to take the podium, and welcome.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you. Muchas gracias para su interés y atención. My name is John Renaud. I'm a Senior Associate Dean for Community Health Partnerships with the UTRGV School of Medicine. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to approach the Commissioners Court today. I'd like to introduce the colleagues who are with me today. Vice President Veronica Gonzalez, Vice President for Governmental and Community Relations with UTRGV. Ms. Linda Nelson, who's Senior Operations for Clinical Operations in the School of Medicine. Dr. Sean Saladin, who's Associate Dean in the College of Health Affairs and also co-principal investigator with me on this grant. And Ms. Christy Cantu, who's Senior Program Coordinator for AHEC. We are here to update the Commissioners Court on a project that we have been working on for some time. We have had the support of the judge and tremendous support from Commissioner Eloy Garza. And in fact, it's been about 2 years ago that a friend and colleague of mine, Mr. Eddie Olivares, introduced me to the judge and to Commissioner Garza. We were looking for a community in Starr County that may want to partner with UTRGV for some, give opportunity for some of our students to work in interprofessional teams and in the process provide public service to the communities. Commissioner Garza was very, very enthusiastic about allowing us the opportunity to do that in one of his communities, La Victoria. And we have, over the past 2 years, held a variety of projects there. We have greatly benefited from that partnership. Commissioner Garza has been an enthusiastic partner and supporter of UTRGV and this project. So it was back in March of this year when the School of Medicine expressed an interest in applying for a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to fund what is known as AHECs, or Area Health Education Centers. And the judge, if it's all right, I have a one-pager here that if I could distribute to you, Commissioner. You want me to distribute some to this table? Or
That's fine. If you have some.
just a one-pager, Judge, if you don't mind. Commissioner, you have one, you want another?
Yeah, I already have one here.
All the commissioners have it? Oh, we were very enthusiastic about this funding opportunity from the federal government because it would allow us to continue many of the activities we were already engaged in of working in rural areas that typically were mostly underserved as far as medical care goes, and also give our students from disciplines all across campus the opportunity to work together in teams. We applied, we applied to develop 8 area health education centers in 4 counties, obviously including Starr, Hidalgo, and Cameron, and also Willacy County. 3 were funded. Unfortunately, we were not able to establish a center in Willacy County at this time, but we did ask to partner with Starr County to develop an area health education center in your county. And it's just made a lot of sense given the work and investment that had already been made by Commissioner Garza and his community and UTRGV in La Victoria to develop the AHEC there. And that's what we approached the judge and the commissioner to do, and you consented to allow us to move forward. So we're back to close the loop, as it were, to advise the commission that this grant has been funded. We're getting to work on it. It's a 5-year grant. Year one, which we are in now, which began in September 2017, is a planning year. It's when we'll actually develop the programs. And then in September of 2018, actually have students and other health professionals in the community in La Victoria. While the actual area health education center would be located in La Victoria, we can provide, and very excited about providing services from any citizen in the county of Starr County. So we're certainly not limited to the La Victoria area. This one pager here, if I may just briefly touch on the major components of the Area Health Education Center. Its major purpose is to develop and enhance education and training networks within communities, academic institutions, and community-based organizations. The strategic priorities are to increase diversity and distribution among health professionals. We want more of our health profession students, certainly our new doctors. As you know, we have a brand new medical school at UTRGV, but also nurses, physician assistants, pharmacists, social workers, rehab counselors. We want them to get interested in working out in our rural communities. And that's really, in large part, what this grant is about. Giving them the opportunities to experience the needs and to learn how to work with the citizens in our rural areas, which up to now have been underserved as far as medical care goes. I mentioned to you that the Area Health Education Program will be housed at the School of Medicine. I am the principal investigator. Dr. Saladin is working with me as co-principal investigator. Then we are locating 3 AHECs, one in La Victoria in Starr County, one in San Carlos in Hidalgo, and one at the Bob Clark Center, also known as the southmost neighborhood in Cameron County. If I may just briefly touch on the major components of the grant, moving down your page here that I handed to you, it's very important for us to point out to you that these area health education centers will be guided by the local community. It's not going to be UTRGV coming in and telling the community what they need. In fact, HRSA requires us to develop an advisory council. We're certainly going to invite the judge and commissioner to have a presence or appoint a representative on that council. But in addition, we'll be asking the commissioner and judge to help us identify people from the community to help guide the development of this grant. We will be actually developing a small clinic, and the commissioner and his folks have already done a fantastic job of outfitting, making some renovations in the La Victoria Center to accommodate that clinic per our requests, per our needs. We will be placing interprofessional teams of students, including medical students, nursing, social work, rehabilitation, counseling, nutritionists, et cetera, in the center to certainly provide health care, but also not only health care, other kinds of educational programs to help promote health, to help educate folks how to prevent diseases. We will be developing what's called an AHEC Scholars Program. It's a 2-year program that students will enroll in, at the end of which they will get a certificate. We are required by HRSA to follow up with the students a year after they complete the program to find out if they actually do work in the rural areas, to see if the program's having its intended purpose fulfilled. And as I mentioned, we will be developing primary health care clinics. We'll begin in September of 18, start slowly but ramp it up, increasing the number of hours and days that we provide services. We're also required to provide pipeline services, which means we're going to engage students in high school and in our community college, including South Texas College, students who are enrolled in certificate programs in health-related fields. Again, the notion being to get them interested early in their career, and hopefully they'll decide to work in our rural areas. We also will be providing continuing education programs.
What does the word didactic mean?
Say it again, Commissioner.
The word didactic?
Didactic simply is another word for lecture, so what we do in a classroom.
Okay.
So in addition to the community experiences, hands-on experiences in the community, we need to teach them about those 6 areas that are listed there. We, of course, there are strategic partnerships at a variety of levels from the state. There are other AHECs in the state that we're required to work with, and making sure we're measuring and looking at some of the same things so we can demonstrate to the federal government the effect that we're having. and we will be participating with them to conduct statewide evaluation projects. As I mentioned, there will be a variety of services in addition to what the medical care that's provided. We'll continue to involve social workers and rehab counselors and students from other disciplines through the Office of the Vice President for Government and Community Relations. We'll get students involved. For example, if the community tells us they need a Zumba class or a class on how to prevent smoking or domestic violence, we can hopefully find students and faculty from campus to provide that kind of education. We have been working with an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, for the past 2 years that we had approved by the commissioner and the judge, and we are revisiting that. We're asking our attorney in the School of Medicine. We have a new dean on board who wanted some time to look at that. We will be bringing that back to you and making sure there's specific language in there that will allow us to provide these medical services. That's the changes that are being made. What we would request, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have today, but we would request that you consider approving the MOU, at least in principle, knowing that your final approval would be pending an opportunity for your attorney to look at it. We would hope to have it back to you in no more than 2 weeks. Ask any of my colleagues if I left anything out that you want to add, Vice President?
Well, just also, thank you. Dr. Linda Nelson is working right now with the mobile van, and they provide services out here in medical services. And so the mobile van will continue to provide services until such time as the AHEC is established and the students are being brought here. So we will continue to do that. And then we had talked about this earlier, the mobile van, once the AHEC is established, which is like a clinic, they probably won't need the mobile van as much anymore, but it would still be available in the event that some community is not getting the service.
Yes, Your Honor, and you know, Dr. Reynolds, we've been back and forth on this, using the clinic, the process, the progress we've done. I think we should be done and ready to go, finished by the end of this year, December. We have done a lot of progress. All the rooms have been prepared. All we need is the painting and a couple of doors here and there, but they should be done by the end of December. The people are very excited about it. Like I said, we had a lot of patients last time you were there, and the community is looking forward to see this thing rolling, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and it's moving along pretty fast, like I told you. We are way ahead of schedule, and Judge, maybe one of the days when you have a chance, you want to drop by, just like a regular clinic. And I'm just liking the kind of painting we want to do, because we want to modernize it just like the new, clinics or the hospitals, not just a regular white wall or beige, And the people are excited, and we had a lot of participants, and these people have been very, very active, and courtesy to our people out there. The services are needed, there's no doubt, and people are finding out. So, Your Honor, at this point in time, I do so move that we approve the MOA pending the review of the county attorney, which I would say is just a matter of, they are the ones that have their
It's
understanding.
an MOU, right?
Yes,
MOU.
Judge.
MOU or MOA?
MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Okay, so I have a motion on.
I second, Your Honor.
Moved and second to go ahead and approve, a tentative approval until such time that the final one is completed. And before I call for the question, I do want to thank you, Dr. Renaud, and of course, everyone at UTRGV. It has been a great help for Starr County, what you all have established on the east side. I recall when you came by my office, you and Eddie, and we talked about it, and you asked what area did I think would be, and I said the east side, because it's the farthest, the east and the west really that do not get the medical services that some of us that are closer to town have more access to. And as you're well aware, a lot of our people have transportation problems, reaching these areas. So, certainly we were all for the east side, and of course Commissioner Garza, he jumped right into it and started working. But I'm not going to let you forget that when we talked about that, we also talked about the west side of the county. At some point, Eddie mentioned that there'd be a possibility of opening something on the west side so that the people from Falcon, Salineno, that area over there, don't have to travel all the way to the east side of the county. Of course, it's a hell of a lot better than going to McAllen or Edinburgh, but I think that would help out a lot if we can get something going on the west side also. So, and that was talked about 2 years ago.
Indeed, Judge, and thank you for your compliments, and Commissioner, I want to emphasize that's a fantastic facility, and the Commissioner has been so very responsive, and I appreciate my colleague, Ms. Nelson, who's actually an expert in this area, and another colleague of hers. We went on site, we had a hands-on observation, and we asked that these particular modifications be made, and the Commissioner responded immediately. And yes, we have an interest in adding services, and hopefully that will happen in the future. And as the Vice President mentioned, we're hoping to use this mobile unit as a launching pad, so to speak. As we get this clinic set up, gain some experience with it, demonstrate the need for more services, we'll be going back to the HRSA and other funding sources and hopefully able to add additional clinics. But in the meantime, we'll be able to use the mobile unit to provide additional service in other parts of the county.
Yeah, and believe me, we totally understand limited resources. So, we understand that, but just to keep in the back of your mind.
Yes, sir.
I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Judge,
again.
Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from outside the county that needs to come before the court at this time? Okay. Thank you, Doc. Okay, I'll pass it around. Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and go down our reports. I'll ask those that are going to give reports to try and be brief. We do have a quite lengthy agenda, so, try and be as brief as you can. First is the gas. Mr. Alvarez.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners. My report is in your package. It's pretty well updated. I turned it in on Wednesday. We had off on Friday, so I don't have much to add to it. Any questions? Any concerns?
Did you make money?
I'm brief.
Did you make money?
Did I bring money?
Yeah,
Made.
Made.
Yeah, it's in the black.
What is it? Don't you ask them if they make money?
Page,
That's all.
page number 3 is your financial page. If it's not in red, you made money.
Okay. Well, I don't see none around here. That's what I'm saying. Looking good, everything.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Alvarez. Transfer station, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioner.
afternoon.
Also, my report is on your desk. This month, we didn't have any major difference. Everything worked normal. We did make some money this month, so.
How much?
5,000.
5,000? Well, that's good. Better than that.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for helping me with the brush in that part of the country.
Thank you, sir. We're there to help each and every one of you in anything we can. Do you all have any more questions?
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Tax assessor, Ms. Salinas.
Did you make money?
We all did. Good afternoon, Your Honor and Commissioners. I would like to have it, you have your reports in front of you. I would like to make it brief, but I think this is important, and I think you need all the information that I have to provide for you. The total white collections for October 2017 were $5,791,000. For October 2016, there were $3,602,000. There were a total collection of $2,188,000, more than last year. I'm sorry. Our current collections for Starr County entities only were $3,450,000. Current collections for October 2016 were $2,696,000. There was a total current collections of $1,353,000, more than last year. Our total delinquent collections for October 2017, just for Starr County, were $182,000. Total delinquent collections for October 2016 were $149,000. That's a total of $32,000 more than last year. We have collected 26,000, I'm sorry, 26% of our projected current tax collection for the 2018 fiscal year. Projected collection remaining are 9,596,000. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Salinas. I think the report speaks for itself, and I know you all have been extremely busy, and we thank you for the effort.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
County Clerk, Mr. Gonzalez.
My report is in your packet. You all have any questions?
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Sheriff's Department.
Afternoon, Commissioners, Judge.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Report for October 2017. Its total revenues of $226,244. That is from last month, $14,534 more. The average count of federal inmates is 139 for the month. That's 6 more than last month. The total for today are 142 inmates, and the total for tomorrow with the van just coming in is 155 federal inmates. So that the total house for the county jail is 265 beds. So that leaves us about 10 open beds so far.
Well, I don't recall exactly, but I think this is a record-breaking number for the jail for a month.
Yes,
As
yes,
far
it
as revenue, is that correct?
Yes, it is. The
I
sheriff.
don't think we've ever been in the 200s.
No, the sheriff's making a lot of phone calls with the marshals trying to get as many as we can, and it's going pretty well.
Again, I commend you and the sheriff for your efforts to bring the federal inmates, and I think at the end of the year, we should be, if we can keep this up, we'll have an excess of $1 million that we're not accounted for in the budget.
That's correct.
So we thank you for that.
Thank you, Judge. I'll let the sheriff know. No questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
International Bridge. Commissioner?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is for the total revenue for traffic for October 2017. It's $224,674.50. And we show an increase of $14,479 for the month of October 2017 compared to the month of October 2016. And we also show an increase of $4,138.50 on collections for the month of October 2017 compared to the month of September 2017. For total other collections, it's $764.83, and the grand total collections for October 2017, it's $225,439.33. Do you have any questions for us?
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Lucia. Treasurer?
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Judge and Commissioners. I'm going to go over the summary of our reports. As of September 30, the general fund had a low amount of $153,000, being $31,000 less than the same time last year. The road and bridge fund was at $2,000, being $26,000 less than the same time last year. The total amount of funds in all bank accounts was $9.3 million, or $378,000 less than the same time last year. We're working with the new county auditor on a solution to the bank and to general ledger reconciliations issues dating back to January 2015. The auditor's office continues working well with all financial offices. The combined debt for Starr County was 5.9 million, being 2.8 million more than at the same time last year. The county's deposits were well collateralized by the bank at the contract terms. The Starr County unemployment rate for September 2017 decreased by 3.70% to 9.7 compared to the same time last year. 8.2% on October of 2007 is the lowest record for Starr County. Our labor force increased by 516 workers, and the number of unemployment workers decreased by 1,010 persons. Source, Texas Workforce Commission. And number 8 is, these are agenda items, number 10 through 13. We're looking for the approval to open.
We can cover those when we get to those item numbers.
Okay. And the 2.5 budget crisis loan will be due soon, and Mr. Peña would like the court to authorize the county auditor and himself to start obtaining financial options for the court to deal with the serious matter because the deficit was so large. Budget cuts for this fiscal year were not enough to pay this loan. So this year's budget calls for payment of $1 million in fiscal year 2019. State approval and a willing lender will be needed at this, and this takes time. If the state does not allow the county to refinance a community deficit spending loan, then additional budget cuts will be necessary for the fiscal year. And this is a summary of the report. The full monthly treasury report is filed with the county clerk. Thank you. If you have any questions.
The agenda item for the new bank account, there's only 4 items on the agenda, but it's 5 of them. One of them called for the hot check fees, and the other one is the hot checks funds on hand. So the county attorney is requesting for them to be 2 separate accounts. It's up to the court. They can be set up as 2 accounts as he requested, or it would probably be best to have the 2 accounts as that one item.
So do we need action on that?
And there's a separate line item, number 13.
Okay,
I
we're gonna
believe.
wait until.
Yes, we'll wait. And the other, there's another item. There's another item that will be addressed by the court, and just to make sure that I do have the time to explain, the transfer from the general fund to the road and bridge. The action that I would like to respectfully request is that whatever monies were transferred from the road and bridge, from the general fund to the road and bridge, that be accepted as transferred, budget transfers, and not as due to and due from, that they be, y ahí se acabó, de ahí se quedó. So that the road and bridge can continue on its course without the IOU balance.
Is that possible, Mr. Carter? Yes. It is? You can move and then just leave it there and not pay back?
Yes. And that way they don't have the burden.
It's at the discretion of the court.
Okay, because I'm under the impression that to keep Paul's and Tom's money, that there needs to be paper trail where it goes back and forth. But we'll discuss that later.
The problem, if I may, Judge, is that
It's coming on the agenda, do you want?
I don't know.
yeah, it's in the agenda to transfer funds, but what I like is to approve the transfer, and that transfer that occurred up until September the 30th be recognized as a budget transfer, and that's it, not as an IOU, because the county commissioners in the road and bridge fund have very limited resources and very limited taxes. They don't have the resources of the general fund, which comes out of for the sheriff's department, for the judicial services, and for administration. What the commissioners have is very limited, and for them to have to pay back would limit services to the taxpayers for many years to come. So it's in essence that the commissioners forgive that from the general fund so that they can move forward. It's up to you.
I think we're discussing something that we don't know. It's just what if. I think if we wait until we actually get to that bridge before we cross it, we'll have time to allocate or move or whatever. Right now, we're beginning the year and we're starting off with fortune telling. Mr. Carter?
On further thought, my thought is that the road and bridge has its own designated
Exactly.
tax revenue.
Exactly.
And so, so I don't know if that sets it, that to me, that sets it apart as a separate entity within county government. And it's self-funding, so any money that it receives from the general fund, I don't know why it wouldn't be paid back.
It doesn't have to be paid today, but at some point in time, it's gotta be paid, eventually. Yeah,
Judge.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
We haven't still got to that point where we have allocated some taxes directly to the road and bridge.
Yes.
That the money should be there, well, for budgeted.
Yeah, this year, Commissioner, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, but this year, Road and Bridge will have excess money. General is the one that's in jeopardy of not having enough. But Road and Bridge has.
So what's the deal about borrowing money from
That's
the
what-
road and
that's what I
bridge
don't-
to the general fund?
We're talking about things that we might not even need. I think that needs to wait until such time that we get to that. And if we get to that and it's needed, then we discuss it at that point. That's my suggestion.
The time is now because the budget deficit is multi-million in the
Well,
road and bridge. If I may finish,
Go ahead.
The
And then
road-
I need to set you straight on something else.
well, I don't need to be set straight
Go
by
ahead,
anybody.
finish.
The road and bridge has a multi-million-dollar fund deficit. And the easiest way to move on is to just, the general fund would forgive that balance for the September 30th audit report. And then from this point on, the road and bridge has to be responsible to working within its budget and being able to provide the services that are necessary to the people at precinct level, but that's up to you.
And I assume that should have been done, just that, I mean.
Every
if we
county
have-
does it.
If we have transferred money from the general fund to the road and bridge to finish up our, why should we carry on as a deficit? I mean, just forgive it and start from scratch.
Because there needs to be paper trail, Commissioner, for everything.
paper trail will be
And-
there.
let me finish. And it doesn't mean that you have to pay it right now. Okay, there's a paper trail, let's say Road and Bridge owes General $1 million. It doesn't mean you have to pay it today. As we go and as taxes come in and we adjust, that will be credited, and it might take years before it gets paid, but it'll get paid. It doesn't have to be overnight. And going back to the comment about that the county is in great deficit, I think I discussed that with you all at the last Commissioners Court meeting about the deficit. And I'm going to use an example of the school district in Roma. If the same formula was used to come up, that was used to come up with $6 million deficit for the county, the school district in Roma would be 45 million in debt. 45 million. See, but that formula is not used over there, it's used over here. Let me tell you what that formula is. The formula is that they came up with a $6 million deficit, of which, as we discussed before, some of it was a floating bond that was issued many years ago, and we're paying on it. And we have an INS account that is monies that are used to pay that bond. We have approximately $2.5 million in that. So if you reduce the 6 million by the 2.5, we have a 3.5 deficit or debt. If you reduce that 3.5 by 2.5 bridge over, which is budgeted to be paid in February or March, all we have is $1 million. And I'll tell you where that $1 million comes from. That $1 million comes from the bridge in Roma. The county owes the city of Roma $1 million. And that is on account that is very difficult to project revenue from the bridge because of the instability in Roma. At one point, let me add, Roma owed the county. Commissioner, you probably remember. They owed the county. We didn't go in and say, you have to pay us $300,000 tomorrow and break Roma, the city manager got together with us and we agreed that they would pay 20,000, 30, whatever they could until they paid their debt. Now, fast forward, the instability in Mexico started. As a budget officer, I need to be conservative with my numbers. So what happens, I project that the revenues from the bridge are going to decrease because there's less people going into Mexico because of the shootings. And Lord and behold, it didn't decrease, but very little. So we ended up with more money than we had projected. Now, why didn't Roma get more? Because Roma is paid monthly. We come up with a number, and they get paid that amount every month. You okay, Commissioner?
Yeah.
They get paid that amount every month. So at the end of the year, we ended up that we hadn't paid Roma some money. Let's take that we made $1 million more. At 35%, which is what Roma gets, we were short $350,000. The following year, I couldn't budget that we're going to continue making the same because the instability was getting worse. Again, the reduction was not as bad as we thought. This year, I had gotten together with Mr. Salinas, Crisanto Salinas, and we had agreed that we were going to up it 50, 100, I don't recall how much, to start paying back on that if everything remained the same, so that we could pay off, and it might take 4, 5, 6 years, I don't know, but we were going to pay it off gradually. That is the $1 million that the county had. Now, it sounds terrible that the county owes $6 million, but those are really not debts if you take the correct formulas. Again, and I will repeat, if you take the same formula that was used to calculate bonds and everything else together, as was used to come up with $6 million, the Roma School District would be $45 million in the red. But that's not the way things work. That's not the way things work.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Just only one suggestion, and I've been going back and forth and why can we, how much money can we use out of that INS fund to pay this debt that we owe right now?
$2 million.
Eh?
$2
But
million.
can we get that money and pay what we owe here?
Yeah, but it's not gonna help matters.
But at least just, I mean, in my opinion, is for the operation of the county to continue, so, that, you know.
It's not gonna have
It's not gonna
nada de impacto, porque mira, those $2 million that are there, we cannot use it for anything other than to pay debt.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but.
Pero, hold on, pero el debt que tenemos on the bonds, if we pay it off right now, it doesn't make anything, it doesn't make any difference, but that's what I'm trying to say. That $6 million, the $2 million or $2.5 million have nothing to do with it. It got nothing to do with it. We could pay, Mr. Carter, can you shed some light on that?
We'll say 40,000 in interest.
Yes, sir. My thoughts on that subject are this. In general, I agree with your statement. We could pay the bond debt off. If we do that, we lose the incremental tax revenue that the citizens are paying now to contribute to that interest and sinking fund. And if we should ever need a bond debt in the future, we have to go back to the citizens for a vote. and get that.
And the cost of an election and the cost of.
And then the second, yes, the election would be expensive. And the second one is, the interest rate on those bonds is very low. Yes, we will see a little bit of interest expense on paying the bonds off. In reality, it's a negligible amount. The interest rate on those bonds is less than 3%. It's 2.65.
Something like
It's a
that.
very low interest rate. It's not hurting the county to carry that debt.
The savings that we would have would be offset by an election whenever we have. So we don't save anything.
Eventually, we'll need it. Eventually, you're gonna need to do the
Yeah,
project.
and it has no impact with the situation that we're in. See, the thing is, Commissioner, this is what I've been trying to tell you all. We don't have a $6 million debt. You know, at worst, we have a $1 million debt.
And, you know, and I agree with you. My problem is, you know, going back, when we come towards the end of the month of the year, we do not have monies to pay our creditors.
Yeah.
You know.
And let me tell you what that
So,
is.
that's what I can't understand. We don't have a deficit. I mean, you can, you know, go ahead.
Well, my report is next on the agenda, and I'm gonna shed some light on it.
Okay.
Very well.
What I'd like to do, if I may finish my report, is I respectfully disagree with Judge Vera.
That's fine. You're not the
He's
first one.
pulling out numbers out of I don't know where. I have a list of what you owe, and at some point, you're gonna have to face the list, or come up with a different list so that we can certify it, but as county treasurer, I certify this list, and this is what you owe, and you do owe that. We can be in denial, or
That was from
I
your
don't know,
report.
if I may finish. On the answer on the INS, if you lower the taxes on the INS by stop charging people taxes on INS that you don't need to, you can always increase the same penny to the drainage district, and now the drainage district would have more funds available to solve our flooding problems all over the county. As far as why we haven't paid that bond issue, I have no idea. I reported to you 2 years ago, and I've been asking that you pay it off, and we would have saved about $200,000 in interest that we've been throwing away. It is documented, and the numbers are there. I respectfully recommend that you pay out the bond issue, and then whatever money left over, the residue of those bond issues, be used to repair the much-needed annex and the courthouse. That's my report.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Let me just, for fact, it's not one penny that we sent to INX. You're done, Mr. Pena. You said you were finished. We don't, I know, and I'm the judge. We only have, it's not a penny that we offset. It's 1/10 of a penny that goes to INS, because we don't need it. So the taxpayers are not being taxed. It's 1/10 of a penny. So if you figure on an average tax, it's probably $1, a couple of dollars that the taxpayers are paying, maybe closer to $1. So it's not, and then the cost is certainly, as Mr. Carter just stated, it's not anywhere close to that. But anyhow, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. Any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Carter, please.
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. I believe each of you should have a copy of my report in your package. It's a rather lengthy report this time, most of it being a computer printout, which is the summary report for the year ended September 30th, 2017, the revenues and expenditures of the county. In compliance with the statutory duties of the county auditor as set forth in Chapter 114.024 and 114.025 of the Local Government Code, following is a summary of the financial results of operation of Starr County, Texas for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017. This report is presented in the thousands of dollars. The summary shows the highlights of the revenue and expenditure information in the major county funds, and then attached is the detailed computer printout for all the other funds. All the funds are accounted for on a cash basis, and the information herein is unaudited and unadjusted. It is preliminary for internal use only. The graph, chart number 1 there, the general fund showed the projected original budgeted revenue of $17,707,000. The actual revenue received during the year was $15,861,000, which is $1,846,000 less than was projected, or a shortfall of 10.43%. The expenditures were budgeted at $17,727,000. The actual expenditures were $17,876,000, or 100.8% greater of the original budgeted amount. In the actual amount column there, the net amount is a deficit of $2,015,000. And then chart number 2, the Road and Bridge Fund, the same format. The original budgeted revenue was $5,717,000. The actual amount received was $5,519,000. Expenditures were budgeted at $5,721,000. Actual expenditures were $5,955,000, or an operating deficit of $436,000. On page 2, on page 2, the next chart, number 3, is a combination of the Public Defender Program, Crime Victims Assistance Program, Border Prosecution Unit, Homeland Security Grant, HITA Task Force, Victims of Domestic Violence, the Border Interdiction Unit, the Violent Crime Unit, the Chapter 19 Fund, and the Joint Investigations Fund. The actual amount received in all those funds combined was $1,636,000. The actual expenditures were $2,407,000, leaving a deficit of $771,000 that the county made up.
The 771, where'd it come from?
It came from the general fund.
And which department is this?
Hmm?
And which department is this one there?
All combined?
All of those departments combined. Those are various grants and departments.
And we had a
within-
deficit of 771,000.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carter, are there any monies in transition?
Yes, there are still some minor final grant requests that haven't been funded yet.
So some of these numbers might be a little off.
Yes. The interest in sinking fund expenditures were $274,000 more than what was actually put in the fund last year in chart number 4. In chart number 5, the federal and state programs combined, there are several funds in that department. Actual revenue, the original budget was $423,000. The actual amount received was $844,000. Expenditures were budgeted the same at $423,000. The actual amount expended was $875,000, giving a deficit of $31,000. Chart number 6 is the International Bridge, which showed a deficit of $294,000. Then on page 3, the Starr County gas system had a surplus of $79,000, and the solid waste transfer station had a deficit of $145,000. So,
Mr. Carter, I thought that in this, that we had made monies on the transfer station last year.
well, again, these statements are cash basis as of September 30th. They're not adjusted for year-end due tos and due froms. This is just raw data from our
Yeah,
computer
and
system, and
I
I'm
think
sure
where we
there's.
make money was on the audit that they gave us. That was 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, anyway, to the bottom line, Mr. Carter, for this year, this is for last year's,
This is for year ended September 30th.
all these
Yes.
combined together, we were in a deficit of 2.4,
Yes.
450, $2,400,000, a little over one.
That's
Shortfall, more expenditures than revenue that came in,
exactly,
2017.
yes. That's why we had to borrow money at year end. We had a cash. and-
Yeah, that's why we borrowed the 2.5.
And as you can see from these numbers, part of it is due to the revenue that was projected didn't all come in, and part of it was due to the fact that expenditures were.
It still continues to what was
Yes,
budgeted.
expenditures ran over budget and over the revenue.
We still owe from last year, Mr. Carter?
I'm sorry?
We still owe from last year?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we owe the bank the 2.5.
No, but I'm talking regular operation,
Yes.
not the bank, regular operation.
Yeah, but
POs.
Creditors.
POs, do we
You're
owe
talking about
Um,
creditors.
My staff has been working really hard to get caught up now that we actually have money in the bank to pay the bills. We're not caught up yet. There are still some purchase orders in process of payment. I have two stacks like this on my desk. So it'll be a couple of weeks before all those checks get mailed out.
Yeah, this is, I guess it's just an estimate of what things we'll look at, because like you said, you've got monies in transition, you have POs that you haven't processed,
Exactly.
so there's still some balancing to.
Yes.
Well, I hope, Judge, that with this great job that here Rob is doing, and probably getting the over $1 million expected in surplus on the jail, and the budget cuts that we did, and the money that we apparently appropriated to pay on the note, and the money that hopefully would come in as more revenues, we can knock off a bunch of these debts that the county has to, and get the county in the right track, hopefully.
Yeah, and I believe that will happen, Commissioner, and it's just different philosophies, you know, you all had one, and I had another one. My philosophy was, again, we don't have to pay everything today. You know, we could pay half of it this year, and then hopefully next year we'll be out.
And I understand you, but you know,
But
we haven't
again,
given a raise.
I respect what the court decided, and we'll do the best we can.
And like I said, you know, I think it's time that we operate the county as a respectful manner, that we don't have to be calling in by the creditor, where's my check, when are they gonna pay, you know, hopefully we
Well-
can get this thing solved and get it going.
Let me advise the court
Yes, sir.
on some thoughts that are rattling around in my head. There are some things that the county auditor can do to assist you in better financial management of the county. I've tried to look back at the historical records that were, you know, reports that were provided to the county, and I don't find very much, and what I do find appears to be inadequate to me. Of course, as you know, I come from an extensive banking background, and I'm accustomed to managing a for-profit business, as most of you are. I would like to be able, and I am working toward developing the capability to present progressive, forward-looking reports to you on a monthly basis, and that is expenditures compared to budget, but also expenditures compared to the relative passage of time, the relative time of the year. So there's two different ways of measuring the progress of the budgeted expenditures. You know, one is a percent of the total budgeted amount. Another is as a relative to the 12 months of the year. So right now with this clanky old computer system, that is a monumental task.
But what you're talking about is an expenditure report for the department, right, sir?
Yes,
Expenditure
yes.
To see how they're going along.
Well, I could, you know, on an ideal basis, I would be able to do it for the major funds. General,
Based on the budget.
road and bridge,
Based on the
the
budget.
8 or 9 funds that are listed in this report, and maybe some others. The sheriff's department, some of the law enforcement departments, I think could benefit from that information. I'm trying to develop that capability. It'll be a few months in the making before I can get to that point, but I'm trying to help you guys.
Mr. Carter, and we appreciate all that, and we need your help to guide us through that. Like I said, on my budget, like I said, I can guarantee you that I follow up on a monthly basis with my secretary, posting the POs, where we're at, which line item we have and we don't have.
That's what it takes.
And
Yeah,
mine is all
it takes-
computerized, and I can
Yeah.
track you, every PO where it's gone to and everything, and it's up to the penny, you know. So In my department, that's no problem, because I know what I got and what I've spent and how much I got left. And I can guarantee you that.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. But, you know, we need help on trying to solve this problem.
Okay. Item number 6, the vendor list, Mr. Carter.
The vendors list is in order, Judge. There are 4 new vendors this period, and they're all local people who provide products or services to the county.
I move that we approve the vendor list as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, we've already covered it. Item 8 is an action item, and this is to authorize the transferring of money from general to countywide road and bridge.
I do so move then.
I second, Your Honor.
Moved in second. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9 is an action item, is to approve a preliminary on Las Norias 4, El Rancho Santo Domingo. Mr. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to recommend preliminary approval for Las Norias 4 at Rancho Santo Domingo. This one is on Commissioner Garza's precinct.
Yeah, no, where it is.
Yeah, it's next to Subway.
Yeah. I do so move, Your Honor, to approve the preliminary approval.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. This is preliminary.
Yeah.
Item 10, an action item, and this to authorize our treasurer to open a new account for the county attorney's office entitled Chapter 18 Pending Forfeitures. Is there a motion for
I so move, Your Honor.
that? Is there a second?
If I may, there's one more account. You have 4 of them, but we need 5.
Well, we can only cover what's on the agenda.
Well, one of them can be split in 2 because it's the same, Mr. Canales will explain.
That's number 11.
If we could, Judge and Commissioners, numbers 10, 11, 12, 13 are all under my office. What they are asking the court to authorize the opening of a pending forfeiture for the actual forfeiture funds, then a hot check fund, and the crime prevention fund. We had submitted for a 5th, and we'll come back next week with another to ask to open that 5th one.
Those tres.
4.
10,
There
11,
are 4.
12, and 13.
I do so move, Your Honor.
I second, Your Honor.
Moved and second to approve. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14.
Thank you,
is
Commissioners.
an
Judge.
action- You're welcome. Action item, this to relinquish possession of just to the precinct 1 building to property owner. Commissioner?
Judge, this is an item that the JP for precinct 1, Jesse Barrera, was moved to the complex of precinct number 1 for AMAC. So there was a question of the building that, where he was at, that it belongs to Ana Rosa. And I think Mr. Escobar is not here, but he researched, and there was never a contract for the rental of that property. So in order for her, to make it easy for her and for the county, I would like to just relinquish the possession of her property, and she just keeps it. I so move, Your Honor.
I second, Your Honor.
Moved and second. Discussion.
Judge, yes, Reina, the light in the, we're gonna take care of the phone, but the light in the water have to be shut off. Okay?
I was gonna do it as soon as this was passed.
All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15 is to approve a contract between the 229th District Attorney's Office and Lexus on the use of legal research access. Is there a motion to that?
Motion, Your Honor, to pass the LexisNexis for the use of legal research.
Second that motion.
Moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16 is to approve a resolution for election of members to the board. We had already named Aurelius, Peña and Garza. We have 1,535 votes, so normally we divide those in half, but I need a motion for that.
I do so move.
Second motion.
Moved in second to divide them in half and give them to our representatives. Moved in second, all in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 17 is an action item, and this is to approve 5 street lights to be installed at the following location. All these are in precinct 2.
Yeah, Your Honor, there was an area of concern based on my constituents that the areas were too dark, so I considered adding some streetlights to them at Starr County Memorial Cemetery. FM 650, and that's in Fronton. 341, that's another location where there was a bus drop-off with kids, and in the morning it's really dark. That's another concern. 299 Falcon View Drive, 59 Eagle Loop, and Alvaro Road in Falcon Loop area. A motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Moved in second, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 18 is an action item, and this to approve amendment number 3 to cooperative agreement number 0G7 Fed 59023, and this is between the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board and Starr County. Muddy?
That is correct, Judge. The Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board submitted this federal agreement to extend it to June the 30th. It was on their behalf. Our construction is completed, but it's paperwork they're dealing with the
Those are the,
Olmitos Garcia Site 7.
So what's that, in agreement for what?
The federal portion, they did filed an extension for June the 30th.
Okay, I just move, Your Honor.
second motion.
Moved in second to approve. Discussion? All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 19 is an action item, and this is to approve area agent on aging for the COG for fiscal year contract 2018.
That is correct. It's for the contract between Starr County and South Texas Development Council for the AAA for the nutrition centers.
Okay, this is for the Meals on Wheels and.
That is correct.
Motion to
I
approve.
have a question that I want to get to.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, discussion?
Who does the negotiating for this?
Who does the what?
The negotiating for the money?
They're the ones who do it. South Texas Development
They're the ones who
Council
do it
and
by
AAA.
themselves?
That is
That's
correct.
I think they do it for all the counties.
That is correct.
Roy and Roy?
Yeah.
No, yo no.
Tú y yo.
Ustedes no.
Hagan, hacer the motion. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. No le arruines suficiente esto, güey.
Pagamos un poquito por blanco.
Pues se necesitan mover ustedes. La carne subió de máquina.
Chile marrano y venado. Item 20 is an action item, and is to approve, accept a $1,000 lease payment to Starr County Precinct 4, Commissioner.
This is the antenna that T-Mobile
Oh, yeah.
is paying for the rent. And that money will be used for the rent of the nutrition center that I have to be moved.
So we can take $1,000 from your budget?
I need $500 more from that. I make the motion to.
Second motion.
Moved in second, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, here we have
Amendments.
let me look at these. Okay, I guess through 30. Items 21 through 30 are budget amendments. Mr. Carter, are they in order?
To 31 también.
No, 31 no.
No, 30 to 30.
30.
We reviewed all of these post-budget amendments, and they're in order. There's money, there's funds available in the funds to be dedicated.
Am I correct to say, Mr. Guerrero, that most of these amendments, most of them, are to adjust the salaries of people so they can come within budget? No?
Mine
Some-
were,
Eh?
all mine were,
Mine were to me.
were to adjust, make sure that all the money is there for salaries.
But I say most of them, probably not all of them.
Most of them will
Okay.
cover payment.
You got a motion? I move that we approve.
Moved in second to approve, discussion. under discussion, you know, this is not gonna be very popular with the commissioners, but that's okay. My job is to keep it open. At the last Commissioners Court meeting, I think Ms. Morado had a budget amendment of $1,000 that she wanted to move. And we raised all kind of hell because she was gonna move $1,000. And yet, the commissioners are now moving hundreds of thousands of dollars for the same reason. And the discussion for Ms. Morado was maybe if she had $1,000 to spare to move, maybe she didn't need it. I'm just saying what's good for the goose should be good, is good for the gander. I'm in favor of it, I don't have a problem with it, just want to hear
Let me
it out.
reject, comment on that, Judge.
Sure.
And let me tell you, when the budget, we approved her budget because she came and explained to us. And the monies that I'm moving is, I never, and you know that, I have never submitted a budget to you in all the years. You drew the budget, put everything you wanted on my budget, then I had to come back and amend the budget to cover all the line items, move all the budget around, especially on the salaries. I never.
I'm sorry?
You compare Ms. Morado with who?
No,
Well,
I'm saying,
what are
I'm
with
saying,
us?
some,
You're referring to us, the commissioner.
We're, so we can go with them budget, so what was happening before won't happen again. We're coming within
yeah,
budget.
but that's.
No, sir, you're wrong, you're completely wrong. I disagree
Again,
with
I knew it wasn't going.
No, it's not popular because we
But
stay
in the
within
truth of the
budget.
matter, Judge, like I said,
That-
I
that-
have never submitted the
You're
form you
completely
sent me
wrong
out there,
on this
I
one.
never write in, you
Yes, you are.
signed the way it is.
But I want the
And
departments
I
to
will make it a
know.
political form like you were doing it a while ago.
No, and I'm
I
not
won't
making
do
it a
that.
political forum, I'm just
But you're
saying,
completely wrong on this.
we need
It
to
is to
keep it
stay
open.
within budget. All departments must do the same thing.
Okay,
And
so,
I hope you stick to it, Mr. Carter. I hope you deal with it. And make
and
everybody
he
stick to the
is,
budget.
and he is, yeah.
Yeah, you knew it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 30,
Estoy caliente.
Your Honor,
Yes,
we will discuss in executive session before taking
sorry?
action.
item, okay,
31.
30 was approved, right? Yes, sir. Okay, 31, we're gonna skip over item 31, come back after executive session. Item 32 is action item, and this is on the tax abatement proposal for Bordas Renewable, or is Rose here?
Yes, sir, items 32 and 33 are being discussed in executive session.
And then come back? Okay, so those three we'll skip. Item 34 is pursuant to section 551.074 and 551.087 and .551.071. We will now go into executive session to discuss order of salaries, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, and regarding potential litigation relating to possible cause of action versus drug manufacturer. We'll be back shortly. 4:10, and we're back in open session. We had several items that we discussed. The first one was order of salaries. So I'll entertain a motion to approve order of salaries as
I also move with the correction that we discussed.
I second your.
moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The other thing we discussed was economic development negotiations. Let's see, there was another one prior to that, wasn't it? Yeah, we had, the purchasing of 3 acres, in Alto Bonito, and I believe,
Item 31.
Item 31.
It's item 31.
yeah, that's,
That,
right.
we're gonna table it, Your Honor, to get an appraisal, Mr. Zarate. We need an appraisal on those acres.
Second motion.
Moved in second to appraise it and then bring it back at some point. Any discussion? All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 32 is an action item, and this is on the tax abatement proposal for Bordas.
That was just an update, sir, no action.
There's
No action. Okay, so no action needed on that one. And then item 33 was a possible action on tax abatement agreement with Rio Bravo, and that's a go, right?
Yeah, motion to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved and second to approve, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Order of salaries was already passed. Item 35, that was deliberating regarding economic development negotiations. What was that? No action needed? And item 36 was legal counsel regarding potential litigation, and
That one we're gonna table.
yeah, we'll table, we're gonna give out the information so that y'all can look at it, and then we'll bring it back at some point. So no action needed on that one. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved in second, discussion. All in favor, please, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.